Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kayla and I am a reseller. I sell on Poshmark Mercari and on eBay. Basically, what I do is I go out and source inventory, mostly at thrift stores, and I try to buy them at the lowest prices I can possibly buy them, and then I turn around and flip them for a profit on those three platforms that I just mentioned to you guys. So that is what I do as my full-time job, and today I have a little bit of a different video for you guys. I thought it was time that I went ahead and filmed my reseller get to know me video, a question and answer video. If you have been following me for a while, you may remember a couple videos back I asked you guys if you had any questions for me. They could be reseller related or personal questions, and then I also asked the same question over on my Instagram channel, which I will link down below if you guys do want to go follow me over there. My Instagram name is Thrifty Mom of Two, and again I'll put the link down below. And then so what I did from there is I went ahead and I made a list of all of the questions that you guys asked me, and I thought I would go over them with you guys today. So I thought that would be fun. I'll have a lot of good tips and just some stuff that I do personally as a reseller, as well as a couple personal questions thrown in here. Okay, just grabbing a quick drink. Have to have my caffeine. I don't like coffee, but these are good. So let's go ahead and get started. These are in no particular order. I'm just going to read them off the list. But the first question is, what is your advice for a newbie reseller? And that question I had to think about a little bit because I have so many things that I could say there, really. So much advice. But the main thing, I think the three main things that I want to mention as a newbie reseller is, for one, do your research. There is plenty of free content out there. Learn brands, learn, you know, whatever style of items you want to sell, whether it's clothing or vintage, hard goods, whatever it is, just do your research. Continue to learn within that brand or within that subject that you are selling, just so that you can prepare yourself the best as possible when you're going outsourcing for these items, and that you're picking up the items that will bring in the most profit for you. Another thing I want to mention as a newbie reseller, if reselling is something that you're wanting to get into, either full-time or part-time, just do not give up. Reselling is a roller coaster ride. It is full of emotions, hard days, good days. It can be very difficult at times and really easy to quit. And I know a lot of people who throw in the towel, but if it is something that you are really wanting to pursue as, like I said, a full-time or a part-time job, you really have to stick with it. There are days when you are making really great sales, and the very next day you could be at the bottom of the roller coaster with 0 sales. But if you continue to put in the effort, continue to put in the work, you know, your roller coaster will continue to ride smoothly and you will be back on top. But yeah, it definitely is not as easy as you would think it would be working from home. It's definitely a full-time job that you have to put a lot of effort in. And then the third thing I want to mention, if you are new into reselling, is to not be afraid to invest in inventory. In order to make a profit, you have to have items to sell, and investing, putting down the money up front, can be very scary. It was very scary for me. When I first started, I would go to the thrift store, and spending $20 to $30 on inventory seemed like a lot of money, and it was very scary because you don't know how quickly you will get a return on that investment, and you don't even know for sure if those items will sell. But like I said, in order to make a profit, in order to be successful at reselling, you have to have inventory. You have to be willing to invest in your business. Be smart about it, do your research, invest in the best possible items you possibly can. I'm not saying just go out and buy anything, but you have to invest in order to get a return. Yeah, so now I can go out and I can drop, $100 to $200 at a thrift store, no problem, and I actually leave happy knowing that I was able to buy that much inventory. So, whole different story from when I first started reselling. Number 2, do you speak Spanish? And the answer to that is no, I do not speak Spanish. I wish that I did. My mother's side of the family, my grandparents on that side of my family are fluent in Spanish. However, I never learned, which is unfortunate, but I don't speak Spanish. Number 3, what did you do before becoming a reseller? So I did go to college. I went to college to become a physical therapist assistant. I graduated, and in order to work as a PTA, you have to take a national exam to be licensed in the state that you want to work in. So I did all of that. I worked as a PTA for my local hospital for about 4.5 years. I did inpatient care for 3.5 of those years, and I was a floater, so I floated around on a bunch of different floors, worked with a ton of different patients, but the floor that I worked on the most was the joint center, so I worked a lot with hip and knee replacement, stuff like that. And then I moved to their outpatient clinic, and I worked there for about a year, where I got to work with some higher level patients, like high school athletes and stuff like that. We also did pool therapy 4 days a week, which was really cool, where we got to get our patients into the pool. However, if you've ever worked in healthcare, or if you've ever done patient care, you know that your schedule can be very, very difficult to manage with a family and kids at home. I was having patients scheduled on me weeks to months in advance, and it became very difficult to request time off. The company I worked for was very strict with their policies, with call-offs and requesting time off. So for me, I just felt like I was missing out a lot on my home personal life with my children and my husband. There were things that I wasn't able to be there for, even little things like school activities and doctor's appointments. I was having to have family and rely on other people to take my children to these things, and emotionally that was really just taking a toll on me. It was very, very hard, just because I felt like I was missing out on a lot, and it began to make me almost resent my career choice and my job, because I just felt like it was taking away so much that mattered to me at home, which is why I ended up quitting my full-time job, which was a very hard decision after putting 4.5 years, investing 4.5 years in with this company, and going to college to get my degree and everything. It was a really, really hard decision to quit my job, but overall, my own happiness, my mental health, everything, my home life, my family, that all meant so much more to me, and I went ahead and quit one day, and that was the best decision I have ever made. So that leads into the next question. Number 4 is, how did you become a reseller? So I quit my full-time job before I even knew what reselling was. I did not quit my full-time job to be a full-time reseller, which I know a lot of people do. But I am a firm believer in things happening for a reason, and things coming into our lives just at the right time when we need them to. And after I quit my full-time job, I knew that I would have to financially figure out a way to help out my family, whether that was finding another part-time job or finding a job somewhere else, whatever it was. However, we were planning a family vacation at the time, and I was trying to come up with ways that I could earn some extra money around the house just to help out with this family vacation. So what I did is I started selling things around my house. A friend of mine had told me about the Poshmark app, which I also had never heard of. So I downloaded the app, took a look at that, and I was listing anything and everything from my clothes, my kids' clothes, my husband's clothes. I was listing items around my house on Facebook Marketplace and just locally trying to sell things. And after about a month of doing that before we left for our vacation, I was able to earn over $1,000. I think it was closer to $1,200 that I was able to come up with just selling old things around my house. And that really got me thinking. After I got back home, I was like, you know what, if I was able to make that much money in that short of time just selling things that we already had, I can potentially do this at home, be able to work at home and make money. And I had no idea there was a huge reseller community out there. That's when I started to reach out to YouTube and Instagram and search for other resellers or people doing what I was thinking about doing. And it was really awesome because I found the reselling community. I found, videos on YouTube, and they were so helpful in the beginning of my journey. They're still helpful. I still, rely on so much, for motivation and education from other resellers as well. So I'm just really thankful that, reselling came into my life, and I'm just really thankful that I found it at the time that I did. And since then, that has been over a year now, maybe close to a year and a half. I have been able to turn reselling into my full-time job. I've been able to work from home. I've been able to make it to all of my kids' functions, school functions, sports, doctor's appointments. I've been able to spend more time with my husband because he does work a very strange schedule. He works nights and he does 12-hour shifts. So I've been able to, spend time with him on his days off. And it has really been just wonderful, and I'm very thankful for that. Number 5, why did you become a reseller? So that kind of goes along the lines of everything I've mentioned before. So I became a reseller so that I could work from home and be able to spend more time with my family and have more freedom in my schedule. I do not do well with set schedules. I have a hard time, I think, mentally being set. Some people thrive off of consistency and having a set schedule. They just work really well that way. I don't. I am not one of those people. I cannot do the same thing every single day. I have to have flexibility, and it's just important for me and my own sanity, my own mental health. It just makes me a lot happier knowing that I can control my own schedule. And I enjoy it. I do enjoy it. I like clothing. I like learning about brands. I love, having my own online stores kind of and selling stuff that I am passionate about. I do really enjoy doing it. The next question, number 6, how do you know if something is anthropology? So the first thing I always do if I'm not sure if it's anthropology is I look at the care tag. If the item has the RN number 66170, then I know that there's a good chance it was sold through Anthropology. Now, Urban Outfitters and Free People items also have that 66170 RN number. So sometimes you have to be a little bit careful with whether you list it as Anthropology or not. Another thing I will do is I will Google search the item. I will try to find the original website the item was sold on. I like to find stock photos anyways. So this is just a good way for me to learn more about the item. But sometimes when you Google search, you can find where the item was originally sold if you can find the item. And that can tell you whether it was sold through Anthropology or somewhere else. Another thing that you can do if you're wanting to familiarize yourself with Anthropology brands is you can go onto the Anthropology website, filter your search by a list of brands, and just kind of look through all of the brands. There are a ton of them. I wouldn't recommend trying to memorize all of them. For me, reselling for a little over a year now, I have learned and memorized a good amount of Anthropology brands, just mainly the ones that I see more frequently and find in the thrift stores. And I think that the longer you do this as well, you'll start to learn and pick up on what brands are Anthropology and which ones aren't. Number 7, how do you grow your sales? So for me, I set myself a monthly goal every single month, and I push and I work towards that monthly goal. Whether I reach it or not, at least I know that I have a goal in mind and that I'm pushing and working towards something. But with any goal, you have to have a set plan in place. One thing that has helped me reach and grow my sales is having multiple platforms to sell on. If I only sold on one platform, so right now I'm on Poshmark Mercari and on eBay, but for example, if I only sold on one of those platforms, I would not be able to be a full-time reseller. I would not generate the amount of income that I would need to be able to stay home full-time. It's the combined income between all 3 sites that allow me to do this full-time. I will say Poshmark is my #1 selling platform, and I probably 60 to 70% of my income comes from Poshmark alone. But without those other two sites, like I said, this wouldn't be possible for me at this time in my reselling career. Another thing that I've noticed has helped increase my sales is to increase my inventory count. I'm still trying to grow my inventory. It is not easy to do when you're doing it alone. I think in the near future, I may be looking to hire someone to help me list and cross-list items. But right now, with me just doing it by myself, I'm trying to process and list as much inventory as I can. And I have seen, a growth with my sales just by having a larger number of inventory. I also promote my items. I try to promote my items through Instagram and YouTube and just other ways of getting people to see the type of items I'm picking up, getting people to look at my store. I run sales in my store, not necessarily where I will discount, each individual item, but I love to send out offers to likers. I love to, which you can do on every single platform. You can send offers out on eBay, Mercari, and on Poshmark. So I definitely utilize that feature. And then I just try to stay current with styles and brands. So I'm constantly researching styles and brands, making sure that I'm picking up items that are desirable and that hopefully, people will be looking for. And I think that can in turn, I think that can have a huge effect on your sales as well. If you're not picking up items that people want to buy, you may not see, as quick of sales or as many sales as you were hoping for. So just little things like that. I think just constantly changing your selling strategy, constantly doing your research. If something is working, then do that. If it's not working, take a step back and look at what you can do to improve your own business, because there's always room for improvement. There's a lot of areas within my own business that I want to improve. There's things I want to work on. But because I am only one person, I have to prioritize, where I put my time and energy. But I think that in turn can come down to where your sales are at the end of the month. Number 8, do you cross-list on all 3 platforms? Yes and no. So yes, I cross-list, but I do not cross-list every single item. When I first started, I only had Poshmark, and then shortly after I branched out onto Mercari, and then shortly after that I branched out onto eBay. And initially, I always list my items on Poshmark first. And what I was trying to do for a short period of time was when I would sit down to list an item, I would cross-list it on all 3 platforms. So it would go on Poshmark, Mercari, and on eBay. But that took a 2 to 3 minute, listing and turned it into a 10-minute listing because of the amount of time it took me to get it put up onto all 3 sites. And that really slowed down my productivity. It doesn't seem like it would, but when you're trying to process a lot of items, it can really slow down your productivity. And I quickly learned that it was not even necessary. There are items that I will list on Poshmark that will do very well right away. There are items that will sell same day. There are items that will sell within that same week. And what would end up happening is they would sell so quickly, I would have to go back to these other platforms, my Mercari and eBay stores, and take them down, which was again taking more time away from my own productivity. So what I decided works best for me is everything initially gets listed on Poshmark, and I keep a logbook of all of my listings. And every so often I will go back and I will go into that logbook and I will look at my oldest listings, the items that have not sold, and I will make sure they are cross-listed over onto my other platforms just to give them more exposure. And I will also take a look at my Poshmark closet every so often and take a look at the items that maybe have very little interest, very little likes on the items, maybe no likes on them, and I will cross-list those items as well. Since I have been working with all 3 of those platforms for a little over a year now, I have learned, what items tend to do well just from my own personal history on the platforms. So certain items that may be getting listed right away that I have just had success with on maybe eBay or Mercari, I will go ahead and cross-list those right away. But that just comes with time and experience on the platform, and you have to remember everybody is different. Somebody could sell a certain brand like crazy, and another reseller could struggle selling that same brand. So it really just depends on you and your own personal business. But I'll give you an example. So for example, outdoor hiking and athletic wear does really, really well for me on Mercari. It does sell for me on Poshmark, which is why I always initially list it there. But certain brands I will cross list on Mercari right away because they tend to sell very, very fast. I just recently listed 2 pairs of hiking pants on Mercari, and they sold within an hour of being listed. Same thing with Patagonia. Sometimes I will cross-list my Patagonia items and they will sell same day or next day on Mercari, whereas they may take a week or longer to sell on Poshmark. So I think it's just learning the sites and, taking a look at your own personal history, looking at the brands that you've sold in the past and have been successful with in the past, or styles, and using that knowledge to benefit you when you are cross-listing items, just so you can decide where your time and energy should be spent. Okay, I hope all of this makes sense. Number 9, do you have any advice researching items? So I love researching all of my items. I like to find stock photos, and I like to find the original retail price of the items that I am selling. I just think it helps me plan my listings a little bit better. So what I initially do is I look at the care tag of the item, and a lot of the care tags, sometimes if you flip them over, they'll have a style number on there. If they have a style number, it makes it so easy to search them. So I put the brand and the style number in Google search, and usually the stock photos will pop right up. If there is no style number, I will still search through Google. I will put the brand in, and then I will just put a lot of descriptive words describing the item. So I try to use, the color of the item, the pattern of the item, the texture of the item, any details, if it has a peplum hem or if it has ruffles, whatever details stand out about the item, I will put those in Google search, and then I will just look through pictures until I find the item. There are times where I'm not able to find, stock photos of an item. So if that happens, I will search the item on usually Poshmark. I'll go in, I'll, filter by brand. Again, I'll put some descriptive words in, words that you think somebody else would describe the same item as. So if it's, a pair of jeans, maybe like a high-rise ankle skinny fit jean, whatever it is, and just see if I can find somebody else selling the same items. Sometimes they may have found the stock photo, which is really nice. Other times, I find items where I see a lot of them listed and nobody has a stock photo, so there probably isn't one that is that can be easily found. But then I can take a look at what they're selling the item at and where they're pricing the item at. Sometimes I find the item is new at tags and somebody else is selling it new at tags, so it'll have the name of the item on it, the actual style name, which can be useful in your listing. So so basically, just to break that down, always look for a style number. If there's no style number, search on Google with descriptive words. If you still can't find it, look on Poshmark, find other people selling the same or similar item. And that's all I do to research my items. Number 10, which is the very last question, how do you decide what items to sell on each platform? So I kind of talked about this already when I talked about, whether I cross-list all of my items or not. And again, everything initially gets put on my Poshmark account just because that is my number one selling platform. And then I will cross-list based off of styles and or brands that have done well for me in the past on the other platforms, or items that are not getting very much attention on my Poshmark account will get cross-listed just because certain items may do better on another platform. Usually when I source an item, I source it because I truly believe somebody out there may be looking for it or may be interested in it. So just because it is not getting a lot of interest on one of the platforms does not mean it won't sell well on a different one. There are different buyers out there using different platforms, and I think you just have to, you know, branch out sometimes to get your items seen so that they can sell. Guys, so that concludes my Q&A video for today. I hope that I was able to provide you guys with some helpful information that may help you in your reselling journey, as well as just a little bit of get to know me information. I think I may do another one of these in the future, probably, you know, 6 to 8 months down the road, once I've been able to grow a little bit more and learn more things with my own reselling journey, and as well as hopefully grow my audience. But yeah, so I think I'll do another Q&A video in the future. If you want to go ahead and leave me another question or any questions, you can down below, and I will write those down for future reference. But once again, guys, thank you so much for following along this journey with me. If you do like the content and these type of videos, please give this a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe on your way out so you will be notified when I do post new videos. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.